Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the Nika Fanfics. Back with amazing fanfiction. This is the series of What If Deku Had Instant Respawn Quirk. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. At only 14, Midoriya Izu knows a lot about pain. Dumb Deku, make sure you stay out of my way next time. Burns sting like the old friend that gave them to her. The ground is a familiar place, a second home. The world is a dark place from the bottom of the societal food chain, and Izu never leaves home without her sunglasses. Once Bakugo and his goons have finished with her for the day, she picks herself up and heads home to the one source of light in her life. Izu, is that you, honey? Izu smiles. Yeah, Mom, it's me. She calls from the front door as she slips off her red sneakers. She makes her way into the kitchen to find her mom working hard at dinner. How was school? Did you see Katsuki today? School was fine. Kaken was busy with his other friends, but we still trained together after school. She lied. Izu always lies. Why worry her mother? What good would that do for either of them? The burns and bruises are easy to explain away with helping her best friend train for UA. I really wish that boy would go easier on you. I know he needs to train, but he could seriously hurt you. He knows what he's doing, Mom. That wasn't so much of a lie. Kaken definitely knew exactly what he was doing to her. I'm gonna go wash up for dinner, okay? She gives her mother a kiss to the side of the head. Okay, sweetie, I made katsudon for dinner. Her mother calls after her. Once in the bathroom, Izu straps off her uniform top and checks her reflection in the mirror. Useless. Ugly. Waste of space. No one wants you around. Your mother would be happier with you gone. The scars on her body tell the story of the storm she feels inside. The storm her mother can never know about. She begins with bandaging the wounds inflicted by Kaken and his thugs. The burn to her shoulder isn't as bad as it could have been and the rest is just some deep bruising, nothing a little rest won't fix. Then it's on to the next part of this all too familiar routine. Useless. Dumb Deku? Worthless. Broken. She unwraps the bandage on her left arm. The scars go back for months, all in various stages of healing. She picks up the razor, finding a strange comfort in its weight, and adds 2 new lines, one for the lie to her mother and one for being too weak to fight back, again. She gets a clean bandage and rewraps her arm. She's just glad the school uniform requires long sleeves. Once she's satisfied with her cleanup job, she hides the razor and pulls on a sweatshirt and pair of loose lounge pants. Time for dinner. She smiles at the thought. Izu is on her way home when she sees the smoke. It was a wreck. They didn't find your mother until both cars were eventually pulled apart. She's gone. I'm sorry, kid. Where's your dad? Can he come get you? The officer obviously has other things he needs to get done, but Izu couldn't care any less. Her world has just become so much darker. How can she be a hero when her mom, her one supporter in her life, is gone? Hope for a quirk in your next life and take a swan dive off the roof of the building. One of Bakugo's friends yells to her after a firm kick to her ribs. Izu looks up to Bakugo, her Kaken, but finds he refuses to meet her eyes. He just turns away from her and walks away. Fine, she's had death threats before, this isn't any different. Sure, when she got her first one at 6, it was nice to hear Kaken defend her in his childish voice, but he hadn't done anything close to that in years. She picks herself up and starts to make her way back to the empty apartment. She lied to the officers, one more line, and told them her dad was out of town on business. Once they found out she was quirkless, they didn't look any further into it. Didn't look to find that her dad hasn't been around in 10 years. It's as she's walking that it happens. You'll make a perfect meat shield. Slime fills her mouth and nose. She can't breathe. She can't breathe. She feels the darkness closing in when a gust of wind knocks the villain away. Do not fear, I am here. All Might. He saved her. Thank you so much, All Might. Will you sign my notebook? He laughs and happily does so, first placing 2 bottles full of villain in his pockets. Always happy to meet a fan. But now I must go. Wait. And she's flying. She holds onto the man's leg for dear life as he soars through the air. He looks down to see her barely hanging on and sets down on a nearby roof. She rolls off the impact and shoots to her feet. Her vision clears just in time to see All Might, her hero for as long as she can remember, deflate in a cloud of smoke and a cough of blood. I must go now. Please, tell no one what you have seen. The tiny man formerly All Might pleads with her. I won't tell anyone, not that you have anyone to tell. Dumb Deku can't even get saved, right? But please. I need to ask you something. All Might looks at her, looks to the sky, then back to her. All right, what do you want to know? Can I be a hero even without a quirk? She squeezes her eyes shut as she asks the one question which all her dreams and hopes depend on. She opens one eye to find him looking down at her sadly. I'm sorry, but you can't be a hero without a quirk. It's much too dangerous. Look at me. I have an amazingly useful quirk and yet here I stand barely alive after years of fighting. No, there is just no way. I'm sorry. And then he's gone? Izu's world goes completely dark in that instant. Useless. Worthless. Take a swan dive off the roof. She's gone. You can't be a hero? She walks to the side of the roof and looks down at the near empty streets. She hears explosions in the distance but none of that matters. Useless Deku? Worthless Deku? Take a swan dive, Deku. The pavement is cold when she hits it. She sks in a breath. Her eyes open but instantly close at the brightness of the light. Death sure is bright. And cold. Why is she so cold? She slowly tries to open her eyes again to find herself in a sterile room. A cursory glance around finds her in the morgue. She looks down on her cold body and finds only a sheet covering her. She looks around and finds her clothes messily folded in a bag and covered in blood. No good. Another, more searching look around the room finds her shoes and a set of scrubs. Better. Her shoes are surprisingly clean compared to the rest of her clothes. Once she has them slipped on, she tries to find her way out. As she looks around, she finds a clipboard with her name on it. Name, Midoriya Izu. COD, suicide. So she did die. But then how is she here? She looks to her arms and finds the familiar scars, but they're all healed, even the 5 from yesterday couldn't save her. A more probing look at her body finds more scars, but all injuries fully healed. Ha! That's unexpected. Great, but weird. She physically feels better than she has in who knows how long. Mentally, she's still processing how she's even alive. Is she alive? A check of her pulse says yes. But how? First thing first, get out of the morgue. Experiment 1, bathtub and razor, blood loss. Result, failure. Woke up 4 hours later. Did gain new, 2-inch, vertical scars on both wrists, fully healed. Experiment 2, pills, overdose. Result, failure. Woke up 3.5 hours later with a slight headache. No new scars. Experiment 3, bleach, poison. Result, failure. Woke up 3 hours later with a slight stomach ache. No new scars. Experiment 4, bathtub and toaster, electrocution. Result, failure. Woke up 4 hours later. Lichtenberg scars across feet, fully healed. Experiment 5, bathtub and sleeping pills, drowning. Result, failure. Woke up 3 hours later with a sore throat. No new scars. Izu looks down at her notebook, death data written across the front in Sharpie, its pages open to the one titled Experiment 6, gun, headshot. This was gonna be a lot tougher than the others, but if anything worked this had to. She looks back up to the sketchy alley. It took a long time and a lot of weird web searches to finally find someone willing to sell her a gun. The money was easy. Mom was never a spender and Dad left her a large parting gift. He still loved her after all, just not Izu. Cashing out at the bank ended up being easier than expected too, what with her being dead and all, but they probably just wanted to get her out of their hair. She'd been living off of the cash for the last few weeks and still had plenty for the shady man willing to sell a gun to a 14-year-old. A man in a very cliché trench coat enters the other side of the alleyway and spots her. She smiles a little and waves. She's not quite sure what the proper behavior is for a teenager buying a gun, but that obviously wasn't it as the man seems to hesitate before deciding to continue towards her. You got the cash, kid? Yeah, 50,000 yen, right? You bring me what I asked for? He rolls his eyes. Of course. They trade money for weapon, and Izu looks suspiciously at the pistol in her hand. And it works? The man gawks at her, of course. Good, you can have it back in just a minute. She smiles brightly at the man, points the tip at her temple and fires. She wakes up a few hours later in a warehouse alone. She finds she still has her bag and notebook, the man just taking the money from her wallet and the gun. Good. She didn't really want it anyway. She pulls out the little mirror from her backpack and checks her head. A small, round scar can be found on her right temple and a starburst scar marks the skin on the left, one side of it reaching to her eyebrow and the other into her hairline. But other than that, she's fully healed. Again. Another failure. She sighs and writes it down in her notebook. This was her last-ditch attempt. She really didn't feel like trying anymore. This just proved it. She can't die. At least, not from any outside force. But now that she thinks about it, she never really got sick as a kid either. So, she guesses the only thing left would be old age? But that'll take forever. She sighs and stands up, dusting herself off. What an inconvenient quirk. Wait. She stands still for a moment, frozen at the thought. Quirk? Was this her quirk? That she can't be killed? Seriously? Now, when I actually want to die, I find out I can't even do that? She screams into the void. She takes a deep, steadying breath, and pulls her backpack on. Fine. Whatever. Guess all that's left to do is just wait around and collect dust. Izu is positive this is going to get old fast. A scream is heard from the alleyway she assumes she was in earlier. How late is it now? The light is gone from the windows. Is it night? More importantly, what is someone doing out here at night? She sneaks over to one of the dusty windows and looks out. She sees a woman being mugged by some JRK with a knife. Before she can even think it through, Izu feels her body moving to leave the warehouse and intercept the man. Hey, bully! Leave her alone. She shouts as she jumps on the man's back and wraps her arms around his windpipe. He tries to claw her hands off, dropping his knife in the process. The frightened victim hesitates for only a moment before turning and running down the street screaming for help. The man finally gets a good grip on Izu and flips her over his shoulder, throwing her to the ground. But this kind of pain is an old friend. The ground is a second home. She is up faster than the man can process and grabs a piece of pipe. The man looks at her, a 5'5" teen girl holding a rusty pipe and glaring at him, and he dares to laugh. He slowly picks up his knife, laughing more and more, and looks back into her eyes. If you want to live, girlie, I'd run. Izu just smiles, and what if I don't want to live? What then? Now it's her turn to laugh as the man hesitates. That hesitation is all she needs before she's running at him with her pipe. He dodges just barely, slashing at her with his knife, but she manages to turn at the last second and hit him in the head. Hard. He stumbles and turns to her. I'll kill you. I sure hope so. She shouts, a crazed grin crossing her face. She runs right at him and in his surprise he forgets to dodge this time, just sticking his knife out. She gets a knife to the gut but manages to beat him over the head with her pipe again. And now she has a second weapon. She pulls out the knife, the man distracted by his head currently still spinning from her strike, and laughs. He looks up at her and turns to run. But she is much faster. She lands on top of him, another hit to his head knocking him out. Her senses are alive with adrenaline. She did it. She beat the bad guy. She's the hero. She looks down at her bleeding stomach and gets an idea. This is Officer Tsubasa, I have a suspect tied up at the location the victim described, but... What is it, Officer Tsubasa? The victim did describe a young vigilante saving her. Did they leave a signature? Kind of. Officer Tsubasa looks down at the man, his hands tied behind his back with some cloth he assumes was cut from the man's own shirt, given the crop top appearance of it. But that's not what is making him hesitate. No. That would be the word Deku written across his forehead. In blood. You're crazy. A shot rings out. I sure hope so, or else this would be really weird. The clang of a pipe hitting bone can be heard, along with the sound of said bone cracking. Izu looks down at the unconscious man at her feet. She grabs some zip ties from one of her pockets and begins binding his hands and feet, just in case he wakes up. She then takes a moment to assess her own injuries. She finds she took a bullet to the abdomen and sides. Bullet wounds are always the most annoying to try and clean up. If she dies from this one, she is going to be sad. She leans the crook against a nearby wall and sticks her fingers in the blood from her side, signing her work for the police to find. She pulls out her phone to make the call. Hello? Hi, yes, I just took down a man who robbed a local convenience store with a gun. His gun is sitting a few feet away from him. Can you track this location? Good. Have fun with him. She hangs up and heads over to the fire escape she originally came from. She climbs to the roof and takes off across the nearby buildings, leaping and rolling as needed. Over the last month or so she's gotten pretty good at the parkour side of things. She's still working on not getting hurt, but hopefully that'll come with time. She makes it back to her base, the abandoned warehouse from her first gunshot, and climbs to what would be the supervisor's office. It has a nice one-way window so she can see if anyone finds her hiding place. Her apartment was compromised pretty quickly, but she had already left by the time the police arrived. After confirming she did in fact have a quirk and deciding to do the whole vigilante thing, she packed up the necessities and grabbed all the cash she could before heading here. Now she had a nice little hidey hole to escape to. The thugs and gangs in the area quickly learned to avoid the place, rumors of a crazy angel of destruction with a death wish giving off a helpful, beware all who enter vibe. Izu gets out her first aid kit and begins cleaning her wounds, paying close attention to the bullet wound. It would heal in a week or so, but bleeding out slowly has become one of her least favorite ways to die, so she does her best to try and sew it up. Her pain tolerance has skyrocketed since she began this career. Dying multiple times seems to really help in that area apparently. Once she's all stitched up, it's time to get some real shut-eye. She hadn't actually been planning to go out tonight, just taking a walk since she couldn't sleep, but then that guy came racing out of that store brandishing a gun, and well, what was she supposed to do? It was just lucky there was some loose piping nearby. As she falls asleep, she starts thinking about getting a more permanent weapon. Detective Soma dropped his head onto his desk in frustration. How was this vigilante doing this? And how have the police been unable to catch them? They literally call on their phone to give the location of all their takedowns, and yet the signal is always gone the moment they find the subdued criminal. It looks like it's time to call in a pro, because Soma isn't getting anywhere on this case. Yazaki, could you please call Eraserhead and ask him to come down to the station? Soma doesn't even pick up his head as he calls over to one of his officers. No need, I'm right here. Soma nearly falls from his seat as he JRKs up to find the very man he needed standing next to his desk. He places a hand to his chest, feeling his heart race. Don't sneak up on a man like that, Eraser. You nearly gave me a heart attack. Eraser frowned. I've never been able to get the drop on you this easily, what's got you so distracted? Soma doesn't answer, just pushes the file over to the hero. Eraser takes it without a response and silently looks over the case. Is the signature written in the criminal's blood? No, but all the blood matches to the same person. The fingerprints also all match to the same person as well. Soma waits for the question he knows is next as Eraser looks up to him, confusion in his eyes even as his face gives away nothing. Who is it? Is the person in the system? The blood and fingerprints all match to a Midoriya Izu. Female, 14 years old, 5'5", curly green hair and green eyes. Now the confusion moves to Eraserhead's face as well. If you know who it is, what's stopping you? Eraser, Soma looks into the other man's eyes. Midoriya Izu is dead. She committed suicide 3 months ago. That next morning finds a local sports store disrupted by a suspicious teen. The girl's dark green hair spills from the hood of her ratty blue hoodie. Her jeans are torn, knees visible and dirty, and her red sneakers have seen better days. But her face is what really sets the patrons of the store on edge. With her hood pulled up over her head, her eyes are barely visible, and what they can see of her freckled face, scarred and dirty, leaves many wishing she would hurry up and leave so they can continue their shopping in peace. Which one though? The metal is similar to the pipes I've been using, keeping with my current pattern, but the wood is just so solid, it feels like it could seriously knock someone down with enough force. The girl can be heard muttering to herself, picking up bats and giving them test swings before shaking her head and trying the next one. The last one she tries, a wooden bat coated with a strong metallic substance, finally seems to spark something, causing a strange twinkle of joy in her otherwise almost lifeless eyes. She picks it up and firmly swings it, stopping just before hitting the shelves. The grin that grows across her face causes those that can see it to shudder. With her bat picked out, the girl grabs a pair of black and white batting gloves and heads toward the camping section. She looks through the aisles before seeming to find what she's looking for, adding some olive green paracord rope and green zip ties to her little cart. On her way out of the aisle though, she sees a set of tent stakes. She pauses, staring at them for a few moments as her mouth moves in a silent conversation with herself. She seems to make a decision, adding the metal stakes to her cart and heading to the checkout counter. The clerk makes no effort to talk to her, simply scanning her items and reading out her total. The strange girl hands him a stack of bills and then leaves, the whole store breathing a sigh of relief. Izu examines herself in the bathroom mirror. With her hood up and thick eyeliner lining her eyes, she looked intense. Good. Add her black face mask and the sight would definitely intimidate some people. Her hero look has taken some trial and error, but after 3 months on the streets, she thinks she finally has it set. A black, slim-cut hoodie, black leggings, a utility belt. She upgraded herself to hold a few tent spikes, thank you mom for those sewing lessons, her baseball gloves, and her signature red sneakers. The overall look was dark and easy to move in. All in all, she is proud of herself. She's come a long way and now she feels confident in her ability to not die again. Well, time to head out. Eraserhead began his patrol of these streets he doesn't know about an hour ago, and what an hour it has been. He caught a known robbery suspect within the first 10 minutes and the crimes haven't stopped since. It's no wonder Deku has been able to get so good in such a short time when the area she works in is so saturated with crime. Since he joined the case, they've narrowed down Deku's comfort zone to this small, run-down area outside the city. They then received a huge break when a witness finally gave a description of the vigilante. Apparently, she's a short female with long, dark hair. That's about all the witness could remember, but it was better than nothing. Especially since they stopped finding fingerprints at the scene a week ago. They're still not sure how this vigilante was mimicking those or where she got Midoriya's blood from, but all should reveal itself in time. As Eraser is going over the evidence in his head while leaping across roofs, he hears a shout come from an alley below. When he gets closer, he sees a mugging in progress, a man with a minotaur appearance holding a much smaller man by the throat, but something feels different about this one. Even though his training says he should jump in, he feels in his gut that he should hang back in the shadows and wait. Something big was coming. A shape jumps onto the rooftop Eraser just hit himself on and peers over the edge. It seems to like what it found as it leaps silently to the fire escape and scurries down. Eraser waits only a few moments before he makes his way to the edge to watch the new arrival. He gets there just in time to watch as the newcomer leaps from the fire escape and onto the assailant's back. With him distracted, the would-be victim makes a run for it, not even slowing down to thank their savior. No wonder it took so long to get a description if this is how all the past victims behaved. Eraser refocused on the fight as the newcomer, a girl judging by the hair falling from under her hood, is thrown off the thug's back. She rolls back up to her feet and stands ready, a glistening bat in her hands. The man turns and runs at her. She blocks his first hit with her bat, hitting him hard in the head after. He shakes the hit off and lunges at her again, managing to get her in the shoulder with one of his horns, but that barely slows her down, swinging around and hitting him in the back. Eraser can hear the man snarl, but that only serves to make the girl laugh. "What is it, you big bully? Not used to the little people fighting back?" She laughs again and drops her bat, pulling out two. "Are those spikes?" She holds them like sharp batons and begins a flurry of blows to the man. He tries to jab her with his knife, but she just laughs almost maniacally. It was definitely maniacally, Eraser just isn't ready to admit that. She twirls the spikes between her fingers in each hand, antagonizing the guy 3 times her size. He roars and lowers his head, scratching the dirt with his hoof and then charging at her. Her head drops slightly, making her grin look perfectly psychotic as she readies her spikes in her hands. The moment he gets in range, she leaps up into the path of his charge, one of his horns connecting with her side, and jams the 2 spikes into his back, then slamming her elbow on the point where his neck meets his spine, knocking him out. Eraser is too stunned at first to do anything. Then he sees something absolutely gruesome. As the Minotaur man falls back unconscious, Eraser can see that he actually impaled her. She falls with him, seemingly surprised herself. Eraser quickly starts making his way down to the alley. Feet hitting solid ground, he turns ready to help and instead hears, "Oh look, I've been impaled," followed by laughter and the girl pulling herself off the horn. "What are you doing?" Eraserhead shouts to the girl as she stands over the unconscious man. She swiftly turns around, eyes going wide. "Eraserhead? I'm a huge fan, oh my gosh. Oh man, why do I never carry around anything to write with?" She begins patting her pockets. That is not the big issue here. He stares her down, completely breezing past the crazy fact that she even knows about him. She looks back at the mugger. "Oh him? Don't worry, he'll be fine. He's half bull, and what I did was just a simple pressure point hit that will knock him down for a while. Some stitches and he'll be fine in a couple weeks. You can see it in any bullfighting match. I just didn't kill the bull afterward." She smiles like that solves everything. "I'm glad to know he'll be okay, but I was referring to the fact that you've been impaled and then pulled yourself off the only thing keeping you from bleeding out." "Oh, that reminds me." The girl turns around and walks over to the unconscious heap of a man's head. She then sticks her finger in her own puncture wound and spells out Deku across his forehead. "And done. Now I gotta call this in." She goes to pull out her phone but stops, turning toward Eraser. "Wait a second. You could call this in. Which means I'm done." "Awesome, better go." By Eraserhead. She makes to leave but doesn't get the chance. Eraser sends out his scarf and wraps her around the waist, both pinning her in place and putting pressure on her bleeding abdomen. "Oh no you don't. You need a hospital." She waves him off. "Nah, a few stitches and I'll be just fine. I'm pretty sure I only lost a kidney." She laughs like this is some great joke, losing a kidney. Eraser looks at her, unconvinced. "I'm taking you to a hospital. You can sure try to, I'm just not promising I'll comply once I'm there. Can't have you heroes catching me, now can I? I'm pretty sure you've been caught." He answers her, gesturing towards the capture weapon. "Nope," is all she says in reply. He rolls his eyes and pulls out his phone to call in the police and ask for 2 ambulances, the mugger needing medical attention as. "Well, so, since I have you here, why do you write in blood? And why Deku?" he asked, turning to find his scarf empty. "It's something to write with." A voice from above calls. Eraser looks up to find his vigilante has climbed up the fire escape while his back was turned. How did he not notice? "And if you want to know who Deku is, ask Bakugo Katsuki." And then she was gone. He tried to go after her, but she didn't even leave a blood trail, and the police and paramedics arrived, so he had to prioritize his duty as a hero. Who the heck is Bakugo Katsuki? And what does he have to do with his vigilante? A little research and a lot of coffee later, and Eraserhead finds himself, on his day off, at the door of the Bakugo family. The family is made up of Bakugo Masaru and Mitsuki, and their son, Katsuki. Bakugo Katsuki, the answer to why his vigilante keeps writing Deku, is a 14-year-old. Eraser walks up to the door and knocks. A middle-aged woman with spiked blonde hair opens the door. "Good evening, Ms. Bakugo. I am Eraserhead, an underground pro hero." He shows her his hero license as he speaks, "and I am looking for your son, Bakugo Katsuki." After reassuring the mother that her son is not in trouble and that he just has a few questions pertaining to a case he is working on, Eraser is left alone with the boy. Well, as alone as they can be with both his parents not so secretly listening in from the kitchen. Eraser sat on a chair across from the boy on the couch. He looked like a smaller, angrier version of his mother, spiked blonde hair and bright ruby eyes held in a scowl. What an interesting family. "So, what do you want?" Bakugo Katsuki crossed his arms and leaned as far back as he could. Trying to force confidence in an environment where he has little control. "Interesting. I am trying to catch a vigilante and your name came up in the investigation." "What? How? I don't know anything about some dumb hero wannabe." "Apparently you do. What does Deku mean to you?" That struck a chord. The boy's face paled of all color at the mention of the word. What did you say?" His entire demeanor has shifted 180 degrees. Gone is the confidence and feigned bravado. In its place sits guilt and fear. The vigilante I am after writes the word Deku on all of her beaten opponents. When I asked her, she said to ask Bakugo Katsuki. Eraser explains the situation all the while watching the boy's face. He doesn't mention the blood because, well, he may be a piece of the puzzle but he's still just a child. What does the vigilante look like?" Bakugo suddenly looks at him with determination. Eraser tries to hide his shock at the turnaround and his confusion on the random question. "She's female, about 5.5 feet or so, long dark hair that could be either dark green or maybe blue or black, green eyes, and she may have freckles." He'd been able to get a pretty good look at her even with the mask over her mouth. The boy grows more pale with each piece of the description, his eyes losing their determination and growing, hopeful almost. "So, what is Deku? What does that word mean?" "It's not a what, it's a who." "The vigilante you're looking for?" "She's Deku. She's Midoriya Izu. She's alive." Okay, so maybe Eraserhead was right and maybe she should have been faster with the first aid instead of staying around to watch her favorite hero take care of business, continuing to bleed out on a different building than before. Bleeding out is still number one on her least favorite ways to die because it always takes so long to come back from that. Ugh, whatever. At least dying meant that all her old injuries were just scars now. There's always a positive, right? She has to admit, dying a bunch has made her a much more positive person. She laughs at herself as she runs along the buildings of her patrol route. Dying making you more positive, what a joke. She continues to laugh for a while as she runs before she stumbles upon a group of people surrounding a young guy who couldn't be much older than her. 3 men and a woman all sneering down on someone visibly younger and weaker than them. How disgusting. "Looks like we're gonna have to teach you a lesson on where your place is." One of the men jeered. "Yeah, we don't take too kindly to quirkless around here." Another added in. "You aren't even worthy of liking my stiletto." The woman finished with a kick to the young guy's jaw. Time to teach some adults their place. Izu carefully analyzes the group. This is her first 4v1 fight after all. One guy has an obvious lizard quirk, so better watch for the tail and aim for the less defended stomach. Another keeps flicking electricity across his fingers, so a metal spike to the hand or foot could force the charge to oversaturate and burn him. The last guy is holding a switchblade and the woman sounds like her quirk must have to do with her voice, it having a kind of melodic tone. Probably best to just ignore her and aim for the knife guy who seems to be attached to her. Izu jumps down and lands hard on knife guy, rolling off and to the side. She jumps up and immediately swings her bat into the gut of lizard man, causing him to fall back in shock and pain. She swivels around taking an electricity guy, keeping an eye on lizard man in her peripheral in case he recovers faster than she planned. "Who are you supposed to be?" The woman called out to her, but Izu didn't pay her any mind. She was too focused on electricity dude. He sparked his hands, ready to come at her. When he lunged, she dipped and whacked him over the head. She spun from him to lizard man, kicking him in the gut then bashing in the back of his skull with the butt of her bat. 2 down, 2 to go. Just as she looks up from lizard man, electric dude comes in and uses an electric-powered punch to her ribs. She laughs and it makes him back up. She drops her bat and goes for the spikes. She swings, he dodges, she laughs. Quit ignoring me. Who are you? Izu continues to ignore her. She swings again, he dodges, she laughs. He recovers from his shock, shock, and takes a swing at her again, connecting with her side. She laughs harder as the electricity pulses through her ribcage. Stop laughing. He growls at her. But it tickles. He lunges for her and she drops, spinning on the ground and stabbing him in the foot with her spike. He shouts and tries to draw more electricity to his fists, but the electricity is too drawn to the metal spike in his foot, sending all the electricity into the ground. Like a lightning rod. Ha, gotcha. Then she punts him in the face with her elbow, effectively breaking his nose and knocking him out. The woman screams and charges at her, her nails elongating into talons. She takes a swipe at Izu's face, leaving deep marks in her cheek. Izu backs away, spinning and kicking her in the chest. Okay, I get it. I'll stop ignoring you. Izu grins, slowly picking up her bat and stalking towards the woman. The woman, realizing her mistake, tries to run, but Izu has so much more experience escaping threats. For example, never run in a straight line. She laughs. Izu throws one of her spikes, tripping the woman. As Izu continues to walk slowly toward her, the woman turns, leg bleeding, and begins trying to scoot back away from Izu while pleading with her. Please just let me go. I promise I won't hurt anyone again. Please. But I thought you didn't want to be ignored? Izu grins. With one more crack of her bat, the woman falls unconscious. All four down. She feels her laugh turn maniacal, a sweet release. A crash from behind her causes her to turn. She finds Knife Guy tied up in a familiar capture weapon. Oh, did you wake up? That won't do. And whack, out he goes. You didn't have to knock him out. Eraserhead comes out of the shadows. Yes, but it's more fun this way. Now they won't struggle when I tie them up. Then Izu begins doing just that, pulling out zip ties from her belt. Welp, I assume you've got it from here, right Eraser? Okay, bye-bye. She tries to get to the roof before he can catch her, but no sooner had she gotten across than she feels his scarf close around her arms and waist. So close. So, Midoriya Izu, is it? That's me. She gives him an actual, genuine smile at being recognized. No denial, you're just going to admit to it? Well, it's not like I was trying to hide it. She shrugs. I literally signed my work. Yes, using a nickname only one person knew? Speaking of Deku, no bloody signature. He's not the only one who called me that, she murmurs. Yeah, no blood, so no message. She shrugs, it happens. Eraserhead lets her go and throws something at her. Upon picking it up, she finds a Sharpie? She looks up at the underground hero in confusion. I have read if you want to keep the aesthetic thing going. He tosses that one at her as well. I'm still confused. Why are you throwing Sharpies at me? So you'll stop signing people's foreheads in your own blood. Eraserhead sighs in frustration. This problem child is going to send him to early retirement, he just knows it. Well thanks. She puts the two writing utensils in her pocket. So I'm guessing you talked to Katsuki? Izu sits down on the roof. Yes, he told me he called you Deku before you died. Is that all he told you? She refuses to look the man in the eyes, instead playing with the gravel on the roof. He tried to explain to me how he was the reason you died in the first place. Her head shoots up, but his mother stormed in and started yelling about some therapist and how he can't blame himself for your choices. She told him not to get his hopes up that you were actually alive. Apparently he took your death really hard. Izu scoffed. I highly doubt that. She told me he stopped talking to his friends, started acting up in school, and getting into fights with other students. She apparently sent him to therapy to work out his guilt. He still thinks it's his fault, you know. It's not? Izu looks back down at the gravel. I mean, he didn't make it any better, but he's not the one who crushed my dreams and then left me on a roof. He didn't even know my mom was dead. Heck, he wasn't even the one who told me to jump. He didn't stop them either. He just let it happen. He let them tell me to jump. We used to be friends, you know? She looks up at Eraser. We were best friends. Even after I didn't get a quirk, he stuck by me. But then he was recognized by people for having such a strong power and suddenly I was just dumb Deku, worse than the dirt beneath his shoe. Still, her eyes move to the sky. I don't blame him for what I did. He didn't make it better, but it was a lot more than just what he did. Maybe this isn't the time to mention this, but he would like to see you. Her head JRKS down. What? He stopped me as I was leaving. He gave me his number and asked me to call him if I found you. Said he had something he really needed to say to you in person and asked if I could get you to meet with him. At the look on her face, he added, he seemed sincere if that makes any difference. I mean, as sincere as a 14-year-old boy with definite anger issues can be. Izu giggled at that. I'll think about it. Okay. That's all I ask. Eraser nods his head. He steps a little closer, being very careful to treat Izu like the feral animal she is. Now, your turn. I'm confused. I told you about the Bakugo boy, so it's your turn to tell me how you aren't dead right now. Bakugo seemed to believe you were quirkless, yet here you stand. Not only have you not been dead for the last 3.5 months, but I just saw you drop on top of one bad guy and beat up 3 others without any real problems even though you were bleeding out less than a week ago from a serious stab wound. I believe that deserves an explanation. Izu stands up and starts backing away slowly. Well, would you look at the time? I believe that's enough emotional talk for one day. You better call in those bad guys down there before they wake up. Almost like she planned it that way, a few groans can be heard from below them in the alley. Eraser turns toward the noise and Izu takes the moment of distraction to make her way to the next rooftop. We are not done here. He calls after her. Bye Eraser. Thanks for all your help with Kaken. Katsuki was tired of waiting. 3 weeks and still no word from Eraserhead about Deku. Well, it looks like it's time to take this mystery into his own hands. Katsuki waits until about 11 o'clock, when both his parents are asleep, and changes into a pair of black sweatpants and a black t-shirt. He tiptoes downstairs and laces up his combat boots and quietly heads out the door. He's not coming back until he finds Deku, screw what his therapist says about moving on and closure. He remembers Eraser saying something about seeing the vigilante on the outskirts of the city. If Deku is looking for crime to stop, and she was on foot from her apartment, then he has a general idea of where to start. So, Katsuki heads toward the trains that are still running this late. It's close to 2 a.m. when he finally finds something. But it isn't Deku. The woman strides toward him, her long ruby hair flowing behind her. Well, aren't you a pretty thing? Tell me, little boy, what are you doing out here so late? Isn't it past your bedtime? Her smile could curdle milk as she leers at him. Get out of my way, hoe bag. Katsuki tries going around her, but she just steps in front of him, her smile never leaving her face. You're such a pretty thing. I'm sure you'll fetch a pretty penny for me. She grabs his arm. His hands start popping, but before he can let off an explosion, suddenly she has a knife at his throat. Now, dearie, don't get feisty. Wouldn't want to damage that pretty face now, would we? He looks down and realizes there is not one knife, but 3 coming out of her knuckles and poking him in the throat, not hard enough to draw blood but very close. Her smile abruptly fades as laughter can be heard from somewhere above them. The woman grimaces and starts trying to pull Katsuki into an alleyway. He resists, taking the chance to let off a small explosion to separate them. The woman tries to lunge at him but a shape drops from above and lands on her. The shape rolls to the side before standing up and brandishing a baseball bat. The woman gets up off the ground and glares at the newcomer. What are you doing here? You're messing up everything. She lunges at the other person. Katsuki can't tell who they are, but the person dodges easily and hits the lady in the back with their bat. They continue this game of cat and mouse for a while, the woman lunging and the other person dodging and racking her with the bat. Katsuki knows he should run for help, but something in his gut tells him to stay. So, he waits, and he watches. He watches as the other person starts to laugh. He watches as the woman gets frustrated, trying to stab and slash at the person with no success. It quickly becomes obvious that this person is not taking the fight very seriously. They continue to laugh, further irritating the woman until she begins swinging wildly, screaming in rage. A blade catches the person's side. They stop laughing. Katsuki can't see their face, but based on the way the woman pales, he's sure the face they're making is terrifying. He blinks and they're racing to a side dumpster, leaping off, and in the air over the woman. They come down hard, knees connecting with her skull, and she goes down. They stand over her unconscious body for a moment before he watches them bend down and roll her over. They pull something from a side pocket and mess with her head before standing back up and turning to face him. A cold, ghostly hand grips his spine in that moment. Deku? Kaken? Izu hadn't meant to save him. She just saw someone in trouble and had to act. What was he even doing out here in the first place? At 2 a.m.? This wasn't good. She still hadn't decided if she wanted to see him again, and now here he is, looking at her like she rose from the dead. Which she did. Multiple times. But he doesn't know about most of those. It is you, he whispers. Then he does something she could never have predicted. He cried. Why did you do it? Why did you leave? It's only her experience with her own crying that allows her to understand him through the sobs. I missed you. And then he absolutely breaks. He's on the ground, and he is broken. Izu doesn't even have to think before she's grabbing him, pulling him to her chest and holding him. She doesn't know why she does it. For all intents and purposes, she is still really mad at him, maybe even more now. How dare he be upset at her leaving when he abandoned her first? But here she is, holding tightly to her best friend turned enemy, keeping him safe and whole as he breaks down. Shoo, it's okay. I'm here. I've got you. She tries to soothe him, stroking his hair and rubbing his back intermittently. But it's not okay. You died and I never got to tell you I'm so sorry. He leans back and looks her in the eyes. I'm so sorry for leaving you first. I don't have a good reason. I wish I did, but I don't. I was a dumb kid, I still am, and I didn't realize how good I had it with you as my friend until you were gone forever. Izu's head is spinning. Kaken doesn't apologize. He doesn't call himself dumb. She knows Eraser said he was going to therapy, but this? Who is his therapist? I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, and I don't expect you to give it to me, but you deserve my apology. Izu averts her eyes, looking anywhere but at Kaken. I'm not sure how I feel yet. I need some time, Kaken, to figure it out. But Izu looks up and sees tears still in his eyes. I wouldn't be opposed to talking to you again. See if we can repair some of the damage. She gives him a small smile as hope fills his eyes. I'd really like that, Deku. Here, I'll give you my phone number. Kaken grabs one of Izu's Sharpies from her belt and writes his number on her arm. You can text me anytime. I promise, Deku, I'm going to do better this time around. Izu can't help but smile at the idea of having her best friend back. It's going to take some time to mend what has been broken in their friendship, but if he's willing to put in the effort, then so is she. So, Izu starts a little awkwardly after all the emotional stuff. How about I walk you to the train station? Make sure you get there safely and all that. I guess so. Kaken shrugs. You know, if you want to. Izu laughs and they start walking that way, Izu swinging her bat around. Once they get closer to the train station, the lights shine a lot brighter and Izu becomes fully illuminated for the first time. Is that blood? Izu looks down at her side. Oh, yeah. The hoe must have got me. I'll be fine. She laughs, but Kaken looks horrified. That looks really bad. We gotta get you to a hospital. Kaken frantically looks around for help but Izu is already backing away. I'll be fine, Kaken. Have a safe trip home. Bye-bye. And then she's gone. Deku to Kaken. Hey. What nerd? You know how I got stabbed? Yes. Wanna go shopping with me? What? Well, I need new clothes cause that lady messed mine up. So, wanna go with me? Sure. Meet me after school. Yee. Izu meets Kaken outside of his school like he said, but a little down the road so she can hide from the kids who might still recognize her. She keeps her hood up until the moment Kaken comes into sight. She waits for him to get closer before jumping on him. Kaken. Oi, Deku. Calm down. He shoves her off and pulls her hood down. You don't want any of these extras to see you, right? Idiots might try something. You really do care. She laughs. Duh. Idiot. He blushes ever so slightly but keeps walking. She stops for a second, stunned by his actually admitting to caring about someone, but quickly recovers so Kaken won't notice her hesitation. She can tell he's really trying and she doesn't want to be the reason he stops. Okay. Izu claps her hands together, turning to walk backwards in front of Kaken. I was thinking we'd go to the mall downtown and see from there what catches our eye. She winks at him. TCH, whatever. You got money for this? A vigilante has her ways. She just smiles, about to turn back around when she finds a hand covering her mouth. Shoo, idiot. Not so loud. You can't just say that stuff around here. Kaken looks around, checking for anyone listening in. Ah, did you just bite me? He lets go of Izu, shaking his hand. Yes, I did. She giggles and begins skipping down the sidewalk ahead of him. Hurry up, slowpoke. Ooh, let's try in here. Izu pulls Kaken into yet another store. She had already pulled him into almost every store they'd come across in the last hour or so, and they had the shopping bags to prove it. How do you still have any yen to spend? Kaken resists the pull, but she's gotten quite strong in the last few months so she still manages to pull him in. A vigilante never reveals her secrets. That's magicians, idiot. And stop talking so loud. You're one to talk. She laughs as they bicker. She wasn't sure how this trip would go, if Kaken would really be okay with being seen with her in public, but it's been the best day she's had in a very long time. Now hurry up. I want to try those black cargo pants. She lets go of his arm and runs over to a rack. They stay in the store for a while, Izu trying on a bunch of clothes and asking for Kaken's valuable opinion each time. His opinion continues to be varying responses of "look stupid," but sometimes he cracks a teeny tiny hint of a smile and mutters something actually helpful. What can he say? His parents are fashion designers after all. Izu ends up spending more money and they leave, her smiling and him grumbling. An explosion shakes them all. What the heck? Kaken is pushed into Izu as the crowds race for the exits. The two friends look at each other then start running against the flow of people. A villain? Probably. And I didn't bring any of my weapons. Izu whines. Kaken looks incredulously at her. You're still gonna fight them, aren't you? She smiles, but of course. Then she's running faster than he can keep up with. He tries to charge after her, but she moves through the crowds much easier than him. As she runs, the crowd begins to thin as everyone evacuates and she finally is able to see who she's dealing with. She sees a man with arms that shift into metallic swords standing in a hole in the side of the building. Hello there. Can I ask why you didn't just use a door? She calls over the sounds of the crowd and smiles at the man. He turns and scowls at her. Little girl, run away now. This is no fight for children. Ah, but I want to play. She smiles wider and gains speed, running at the man before sidestepping and using her momentum to swing up onto a store's sign, swinging like a child on a set of monkey bars. Please let me play with you? I have no business with you. What I want you cannot give me. He turns from her, sneering, and begins stomping toward a high-class boutique. Izu swings off the sign and races towards him. What do you want then? You're a lot less rampage-y than I was expecting after that explosion. She begins to skip next to the sword-armed villain, her hands clasped behind her back. He sneers at her again, money of course. Money and fear. The explosion was simply a deterrent. Izu takes a moment to look back at the hole where people are currently being pulled from under the rubble. She remembers seeing people in the crowd with blood dripping down their faces. You picked a very violent deterrent. That was the point. Now leave or I will end you. He growls at her, growing tired of her incessant talking. She taps her chin, pretending to think. Nah, I'm good. I think I'd rather fight you. She gives him a Cheshire cat grin. Why you little? And he lunges at her. Sword swiping over her as she ducks under it. She picks up a piece of rubble and throws it at his head but he knocks it out of the air. You are but a fly flittering about. Leave before I end your life. I have no qualms with killing a child. She lunges at him and he steps to the side. She ducks under another swing from him and tries to blind him with dust to the eyes. He closes his eyes and brushes away the dust, swinging his other arm wildly while doing so. The wild swing nicks her arm, but she just rolls away and grabs a piece of wood about the size of her baseball bat. Finally holding a weapon-ish, Izu goes in swinging. She uses a nearby overturned table to jump up and whack him over the head just as he is reopening his eyes. How's that for a fly? She laughs. He stumbles, his only response a growl and another swipe at her. His long sword arm seemed too bulky for him to move at the same speeds as her. She easily ducks but is thrown off course when he surprises her with his other arm sweeping up from below. She tucks into a roll, her arm taking the brunt of his attack. She is quick to jump back up again, grabbing her piece of wood and running back at him. She feigns left, he lunges, then she spins and hits him in the back. Hard. She hears a rib crack and he growls loudly. You are but a worm, a pebble in my way. Learn your place. He yells to her and swings his arms. The sword shrinks slightly, increasing his speed as he rages toward her. I don't think so, buddy. She laughs, zigzagging around the decimated area. You aren't the first one to suggest I learn my place, but I guess the lessons just won't sink in. She shrugs before running full force at him. She aims to smack him in the head again, but he crosses his sword arms and blocks the hit, pushing her back. She takes it in stride and goes right back in, aiming for his legs and hitting him in the head when he goes to block. As she backs away, she catches sight of a hero coming to the scene, still pretty far away and coming from a direction where the big bad most likely blocks her from their sight. He groans and it turns into another growl. This ends now. And he swipes at her with full force while she's distracted and she flies into a nearby store window, glass and debris cutting into her flesh. She hits her head and feels the world go black. Ku! Wake up! Wake up, dumb Deku! Izu lurches up and hits her head against Kaken. Ow, idiot. He rubs his head but quickly goes back to looking over her. What happened? Where are we? She ends with a cough. I figured you didn't want that hero chicken finding you, so while they were fighting I dragged you out back. Deku, you should really go to a hospital. Please let me take you to one of the ambulances. She coughs again, feeling blood dripping down her chin. Nah, I've had worse. She looks down to her body and regrets it immediately. Apparently, the store she was thrown into had a knife and cutlery display. Her entire left side is just a mess of blood and torn clothing, random bits of glass and broken knives sticking out. She thinks she even sees a serving fork bent in her thigh. Great. Just perfect. Yeah, definitely had worse. She lets her head fall back to the ground. Deku, if this was any worse you'd be dead. He tries to whisper, but the tone is angry enough that it still feels like he's yelling at her. Kaken, I need you to listen to me very carefully. She's racked with more coughs for a minute before she is able to continue. I can feel my lung filling with blood. Yes, I know what that feels like, I promise I'll explain later. If it was even possible, Kaken looks even more worried than before. I need you not to panic. I need you to take me somewhere safe. Somewhere no one will question us. A warehouse, a few coughs, near where you first found me, the one with the graffiti that says Angel of Death on it, is where I stay. Take my body there, stop panicking, take me there and I'll explain everything in about 2 hours. She looks down at her side again. Better make it 3. You can look through my stuff, have a snack, but leave my butterfingers alone. Promise me you won't take me to any heroes. Promise me. I won't take you to any heroes, I promise. His voice shakes. Good, good. Her eyes close as she coughs again, much more weakly this time. That's good. See you soon. The world goes dark. Deku is dead. He thought he lived in a nice enough area, but it was way too easy for Katsuki to carry a dead body covered in blood onto the train. The only reaction he got was some guy complimenting him on his cosplay. Once he got to the district where he found Deku, no one even batted an eye. He found the warehouse she had mentioned pretty easily and managed to get her up the stairs, only dropping her once. Now he's stuck sitting next to his former best friend turned bully victim turned friend's body while he contemplates what to do. In the past hour alone, Katsuki has almost called or texted Eraserhead a minimum of 30-ish times. She said she'd explain everything in 3 hours, but she seems pretty dead to him. How is she gonna just be fine in 3 hours? Katsuki finally, after waiting another 30 minutes, decides to explore Deku's base. He assumes it's her base considering the bedding and clothes piled everywhere. That's another thing. Not only did he have to carry her, but all the crap she bought too. And now he's mad. When she wakes up, if she wakes up, Katsuki is going to have some choice words for her. He shakes his head and goes back to exploring her living space. He starts to feel a little awkward about it before he remembers she gave him permission as long as he doesn't eat her butterfingers. Katsuki snacks on a butterfinger while he flips through the papers on what would be the manager's desk. It's mostly just newspaper clippings discussing crime rates and some obviously stolen police reports. How she got her hands on those is a mystery that he has no plans of solving. He only has headspace for one Deku-related problem at a time, and theft is definitely not high on his priorities list when her dead body is just chilling on the makeshift bed in the corner. Katsuki finished off the candy bar and headed over to look through a pile of junk in the corner. He found Deku's bat and some tent spikes, along with other junk you might find in an athletic store. What does Deku need with a bike chain? It looked like Deku could almost open up her own sports and outdoors shop with the amount of crap she'd hoarded. Cleats, knives, hunting boots, golf clubs, he even found a volleyball net. What in the heck is Deku planning with all this junk? A groan can be heard coming from the bed. Katsuki runs over and checks Deku's throat for a pulse. It's weak but it's there. Unfortunately, he's still leaning over her when her eyes shoot open and she jerks up, knocking their foreheads together. Ow, Deku, watch it. Katsuki leans back on his heels and rubs his head vigorously. Sorry, Kaken. Deku sits up and rubs her own head in slow circles. Looks like I survived, so yay? She looks at Katsuki like she expects him to blow up. She knows him very well after all. That's it? You make me carry your dead body on a train and through a sketchy part of town, then I have to sit with it in this room for an additional hour and a half, and all you can say is, yay? Really? He gets in her face, grabbing her shirt in his fist and pulling her close. Nuh-uh, I deserve an explanation, Deku. Now. She raises her hands to try and placate him. Okay, yeah, that's totally fair. It's kinda a long story. She rubs the back of her neck nervously. Katsuki drops her shirt and plops down in front of her, waving his hand for her to continue. Well, I guess the first thing is, I can't really die? Like, I die, but then I come back a few hours later. But, I guess you already figured that part out. But yeah. I have a quirk, surprise? She laughs a little, but Katsuki keeps his glare on his face. Right? She breaks eye contact with him and rubs her hands together. I was in a really dark place after my mom died. Then, well, you know that sludge villain that attacked you? It was all over the news for like weeks. Katsuki nods. He attacked me first actually. Yeah. All Might saved me and I latched onto him when he tried to leave. I just had to know that my life wasn't pointless, you know? But when I asked him if I could still be a hero he told me no. Just like that. Just, sorry kid but no, and then he just, left me. He left me on that rooftop and I don't know. I guess life felt really worthless after that, so I jumped. But you know that? The weird thing is that I woke up in the morgue perfectly fine a few hours later. I tried a couple times after that, but I just couldn't stay dead, so, yeah. I guess that's all of it. It was quiet for a while after that, neither one really wanting to break the silence. Then Katsuki does something that shocks even him. He reaches forward and pulls Deku into a bone-cracking hug. He holds her so tightly it pops her back. He holds onto her like he's afraid she'll disappear. He holds her as he feels a growing wetness in his eyes, which he promptly closes to get rid of the evidence. She hesitates for at least a full minute before she returns his embrace full force. And they just sit there, hanging tight to one another like the last 10 years never happened. Like they were still those tiny 4-year-olds who believed they would conquer the world together. Katsuki finally pulls back, quickly wiping his eyes as nonchalantly as humanly possible. You tell anyone about this and I'll kill you. He looks at her, a smirk forming. Twice. Deku laughs and the tension is broken. They sit together and just enjoy the company for a while, keeping conversation light and surface level. Then Deku notices the way Katsuki shifts his head slightly and keeps looking at her mouth. How have your ears been? Katsuki looks away from her and scoffs. Come on, Kaken. I was hoping you wouldn't notice. He almost whispers. Has Auntie looked into hearing aids or sign language courses yet? The old hag has been bugging me about it for a while. He sighs. I know a little sign, but I want to hold off on hearing aids for as long as I can. Deku pokes Katsuki in the face until he turns to snarl at her. She is unfazed and continues talking to him now that he's looking at her. It's nothing to be ashamed of. I know that. It's just, I don't want to be weak. He tries to look away at that, but Deku just pokes him in the face again until he looks over. You could never be weak, King Explosion Murder. He laughs at the use of that dumb hero name he made up when they were kids. His therapist helped him see how unfitting it was for a hero, but the way Deku said it made the whole thing seem ridiculous. You know, Kaken, I learned sign language a long time ago. It was Deku's turn to look away as Katsuki stared dumbfounded at her. I wanted you to still have a friend when it was gone. They sat in silence for a while, until Katsuki broke it once again. Thanks, nerd. Over the next 6 months or so, Izu became a recognized vigilante, and though the media still called her Deku, the criminals she fought knew her under a different name. They called her Kurudashur, or Crazy Death. She never killed anyone, but villains would claim to have finally finished her off only for her to appear again the next night. She did not fear being killed and would even go out of her way to dare her opponents to try. Staring down the barrel of a gun or the blade of a katana and laughing, she'd scream at them to do it. Kill me, before rushing forward and taking them down with her bat and bike chain, or knife, or a solid kick with a spiked shoe. Her arsenal changed over the course of the passing months, but she never left home without that bat. She would use her sharpies to tick off tally marks for every enemy she defeated. Villains became so wary of her, they'd go out of their way just to avoid her. So, she was forced to find new areas to patrol. Lucky, for Eraserhead, she ended up right in his neighborhood. Izu is sitting on a rooftop in an unfamiliar area a ways away from her comfort zone, just scoping out the streets. She just stopped a mugging, so it was time to find her next target. Deku. Or should I call you Kurudashur now? Eraserhead appears out of the shadows. Meh, it's all silly semantics anyway when you already know who I am. Though I do think the second one is really funny. Izu laughs and turns to look at the man who had become a sort of begrudging mentor to her. He walks closer and sits on the edge with her, about a foot away to leave her space. You didn't call the police on that last guy. Why should I when you're close enough to call it in for me? She swings her hanging feet back and forth like a small child. Eraserhead just shakes his head at her. She stops swinging her feet after a moment and starts to chew on her lip a bit. Hey, Eraser? Yes, problem child. Eraserhead doesn't look at her, giving her space to get out her words. He's always been good about that. Do you think a quirkless person can be a hero? Izu starts wringing her hands just to give them something to do. Eraserhead quickly glances at her before answering, if they work hard at it and don't take stupid risks, sure. Anyone can be a hero with the right training and support. Why do you ask? A manic smile forms on Izu's face as she starts swinging her feet again. Did you know that I'm technically not a vigilante? Eraserhead gets whiplash from the change in topic but just stares at her. How do you figure that? You have to use a quirk for what I do to be considered vigilantism. Welp, by Eraser. She hops up and jumps across to the next building, leaving Eraserhead alone and confused. Entrance exams are coming up. Eraserhead drops down next to Izu. He uses his capture weapon to quickly take down the villain she is fighting and knocks him out. Hey, that one was mine. No fair. I call foul, She crosses her arms and sits on the ground to pout. Eraserhead sighs and rubs his temples. Problem child. She turns away from him and, if it's even possible, pouts more. I'll let you sign him if you'll stop being a brat. Izu jumps right up, perky as ever. It's a deal. She pulls out her red Sharpie and signs the guy's forehead happily as Eraserhead releases him from the capture weapon. When the police show up, both Izu and Eraserhead are long gone, just a criminal left with Deku written in red on his head. After they get a few rooftops away, Eraserhead wraps up Izu and pulls her closer. You didn't give me an answer. You didn't ask a question. Eraserhead sighs again. Fine, are you planning to take the UA entrance exam? I know for a fact you spend your days at the library, so you're bound to be smart enough. Izu chews on her lip, averting her eyes from Eraserhead's intense gaze. I'm legally dead, remember? Kinda hard to apply to schools when everyone thinks you killed yourself almost a year ago. Hence why I'm currently homeschooling myself. That's a terrible excuse. You know as well as I do that you and I could easily fix that. Even if you wanted Midoriya Izu to stay dead, fake IDs aren't really that hard to come by. And I never said that. Izu laughs half-heartedly. I'll think about it, okay? Good. She didn't show. What happened to you thinking about it? Izu is currently hanging upside down in a capture weapon staring down the one adult she trusts and whom she knows she's disappointed. I did think about it. Decided not to go. She attempts a shrug. Too much work. I'm good at being a vigilante. Why mess with that and risk losing the one thing I'm not useless at? Problem child. Eraserhead carefully puts her down on the rooftop. You're a great vigilante because you'll make a great hero. You're not useless, and you never have been. I'm sure Bakugo would say the same thing. He watches Izu shrug, refusing to meet his eyes. He sighs. You know I teach at UA, right? That got a reaction. What? She stares up at him from where she's sitting cross-legged on the ground. Yeah, so I'd be there if and when you need me. You wouldn't be on your own anymore. Izu averts her eyes again, chewing her lip. I'm fine on my own. I can take care of myself. Another sigh from the exhausted man. I know you can, but that doesn't mean you should. I'll think about it. For real this time. Okay? I really hope you do. She knew it was bound to happen eventually, she was just hoping it wouldn't happen now. Especially since she'd been avoiding Eraserhead since the new school year started. Now she needs him and she doesn't know how to get him here. Here being the interrogation room at the police station. So, Deku, as I'm assuming you want to be called Dash. Some call me Karuta, sure, if that's better for you. The detective glares at her. Let's start with something easy. What's your real name? Izu tries to pull her handcuffed hands closer to herself. You wouldn't believe me if I told you. The detective slams his hands down on the table, trying and failing to startle her. That's enough sass from you, young lady. A patrolman caught you red-handed as you pummeled that man with your bat. You were covered in his blood. There's no getting out of this, so you better start being straight with me. Not all of it was his, he got some lucky shots in. She doesn't even look at the man as she says this, just starts picking at the blood under her nails. The detective loses it. He grabs the front of her shirt and pulls her close to him. Why, you little Dash? That will be quite enough, detective. The detective releases Izu at the sound of the newcomer and she is able to look towards the door to see Eraserhead standing in the doorway with a rat, bear, shrew, sitting in his scarf. She looks back over at the detective to see he has gone completely white. Nedzu, sir. What are you doing here? Eraserhead was kind enough to inform me when he was notified you had captured the elusive Deku. We've been discussing her at length, so I was overjoyed to get the call. I will be taking things from here, thank you. Your captain is already aware. When the detective continued to stand there dumbfounded, the small animal added, You are dismissed. The detective took that cue and nearly ran from the room, leaving Izu with her disappointed kinda mentor and a creature she had never met. Hello there, Midoriya Izu. Yes, I know who you are, and I am so very happy to learn that reports of your untimely death were inaccurate. Eraser tells me you are quite the bright young lady, as well as someone with the skills and determination necessary to become a hero. Izu looks to the creature with wide eyes as he jumps from Eraserhead's shoulder and comes to stand in front of her on the table. She's not sure what to think of him. He's smiling at her and his tone is very friendly, but being a vigilante kinda requires a sense of paranoia, so, I'm sure you're wondering why I'm here today, yes? She nods. Well, as a vigilante, you are considered a criminal to most law enforcement. However, since you have never used unnecessary force, you are eligible to be a part of the Vigilante Reformation Project. And it just so happens that we have a vacancy in the hero course at UA. So, what do you say? Want to be a true hero? Izu chews her lip for a moment before that familiar manic smile crosses her lips. Just a few issues with your plan, sir. One being that I am still legally dead. And second being, I'm technically not a vigilante. According to my records, I'm quirkless. Nedzu's smile turns mischievous. The first of your concerns is negligible. I've already had that little mishap fixed and you are back to being living and breathing. Don't worry though, I've already had your home situation fixed as well. Eraser, or should I say, Aizawa, is a registered foster parent and will be taking you in. He claps his paws together. As for the second thing, he gets eye to eye with Izu and whispers, we both know records aren't always correct. He leans back again. Izu stares at him with jaw slack and eyes even wider than before. Well, if that's everything. Wait. What about the entrance exam? I didn't even take it. Oh, that's the easiest problem to solve. I'll have you take my personal exam tomorrow morning and you can consider the field trip to the USJ on Friday as your practical exam. He claps his paws together again. So, are we in agreement? She just nods very slowly. Excellent. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And he's gone, leaving Eraserhead and Izu alone. Eraserhead sits across from Izu and begins unlocking her handcuffs. Again, just like he always does, he leaves her space in the silence. Once she is freed, he just sits there with her. So, you're like my legal guardian now or something? She doesn't look at him. Yes. She's silent for a moment, chewing her lip and retreating in on herself. She's quiet when she continues. Are you sure? She finally looks up at him. I mean, really sure. Look at me, I'm not a normal kid. I'm a suicidal, bordering on crazy, useless in everything, Deku. Are you really sure you want me? Eraserhead looks at her for a moment before putting his hand on her head and rubbing her hair. Of course I want you, problem child. You're my vigilante. You are not useless, nor a Deku. You are an intelligent, resilient, important, and valuable person. The other stuff just means you need me. How can I call myself a hero and turn away someone who truly needs me? Izu breaks down. Aizawa gets up and comes around to hug her for the first time. She clings to him as she cries and he lets her. She's finally found a home after a year alone and it's overwhelming. Aizawa's apartment is small. Like, one bedroom small. But it feels safe somehow. He pulls out an extra futon and some extra blankets, setting them up in the sparse living room. Sorry about the living conditions, but I'll figure out something better soon. She smiles up at him. This is perfect. Thank you. Aizawa gives her a small smile and ruffles her hair. I'm glad you like it. Get some sleep, the devil rat has plans for you tomorrow. Izu laughs and curls up in the warm safety of the blankets that smell of new beginnings and home. All right, Miss Midoriya, time to see where your education is at. The principal claps his paws together and places a fairly large-sized packet of paper in front of her at a small desk in the corner of his office. Once you've finished the test, we'll go through it together and work on catching you up so you can join your new classmates for the field trip tomorrow morning. Izu smiles down at the papers. She's always loved learning, and would have enjoyed school a lot more if there were no other people there, so this was like a dream come true. She begins to work on the test and finds it pleasantly challenging. The math section gets harder as she goes, but she finds she understands it after a few problems. Then she gets to history, and well, that's a bust, but who needs that, right? Japanese is pretty simple and she has been learning English as a hobby for the last year, so that's pretty fun. Science is a favorite as that's usually the stuff she read in the library, so those problems are super easy and she finds herself laughing as she writes in the answers. Overall, she'd say the test was fun. Done. She looks up almost 3 hours later. Nedzu looks up from his work and smiles, motioning for her to bring it over. She happily complies and skips over to his desk. They sit together for the next hour going through the harder stuff before pausing for lunch. He has a plate of katsudon brought up for her along with his own meal and they eat together, idle chatter passing between them. An alarm sounds interrupting Nedzu's story about some students last year. Level 3 security breach. Level 3 security breach. Level dash. Stay here, I'll go see what is going on. Nedzu calmly hops down and heads out the door. Now, Izu has never claimed to be a patient person. The moment the door closes behind Nedzu, Izu is out of her seat and looking through the security footage on his computer. Huh, just the media from this morning? How boring. Izu is a little disappointed before she notices the odd teenager, in the corner of the screen wearing a hoodie and walking in the opposite direction of the media, toward a blind spot in the cameras. A few experimental clicks and she is able to rewind the footage to see the teen do something before the media bursts in. She looks through the camera feed and tries to find the teen again on one of the other cameras, succeeding a few times but only in passing. It takes too long for her to find him to really see what he's up to, but she keeps trying. She finally switches back to the live footage of the gate and sees the teen re-enter the camera's view as the heroes handle the media, trying to force them out. He leaves through the gate right as the heroes find success and the whole situation is resolved. Weird. What was he doing here? Nezu makes his way back a few minutes later, but by then Izu is back in her proper seat and thinking about the mysterious teen as she finishes her lunch. Well, that was sure exciting for your first day. I trust you weren't too frightened? She smiles mischievously at him. It takes a lot more than that to frighten me, sir. Excellent. He claps. Now, where were we? Aizawa led his class toward where Izu was waiting by the bus dressed in her full gear. Vigilante, but that doesn't mean she is any less of a student than each one of you. You will treat her with the same respect as you treat all of your classmates. And here she is, the class all gather behind him as they reach her. Class, this is the newest student joining our class, Midoriya Izu. Izu smiles awkwardly at them and does a sort of half-wave. Hi. She sees Bakugo and her smile grows. Hi, Kaken. That gets the class talking. Did she call him Dash? Bakugo knows her Dash. Hot babe? The angry Pomeranian has a friend? Ha, he is kinda like an angry Pomeranian, isn't he? She laughs at the last statement. His classmate's surprise proves that even with all that therapy, Kaken is still Kaken. It's nice to know that some things never change. A tall, blue-haired boy dressed in a suit of armor steps forward and sticks out a robotic arm toward her. Ida Tenya, class representative. It is nice to meet you, Midoriya. Izu laughs and shakes his hand so vigorously his glasses slide down his face. Nice to meet you too. Just a heads up that I'm not the best with listening. She turns to everybody else. It's free seating on the bus, so come on guys. And she's gone. She can hear Ida trying to get everyone to line up or whatever, but they all find she was telling the truth once they join her. A frog-like girl sits next to her and a tall, dark-haired girl sits on the other side before some grape-headed boy can try to force his way over. They introduce themselves as Azui Tsuyu and Yayorozu Momo, but insist on being called Tsu and Momo. Momo then leans down to whisper to Izu. That's Mineta, she points at the grape kid, he's a pervert, so watch out for him. No worries, she whispers back. She then pulls out her bat from under her seat. He messes with me and I add another tally mark. She can feel her grin turn manic at the expression of everyone but Kaken when she says this. Oi, Deku. Put that away. You're gonna scare the extras. Kaken shouts from the other side of the bus. Her smile goes back to innocent as she puts it away next to her. Okay, Kaken. After only a moment of awkward silence, conversation picks up all over the bus. A strong-looking redhead looks at her from across the aisle. Hey, Midoriya, what's your quirk? Sensei never said. Izu can feel Kaken's intense look even as everyone turns to stare. Well, I'm actually quirkless. I fight with improvised weapons instead of using a quirk. The bus is silent for a moment before the grape kid speaks up. That's stupid, a quirkless chick can't be a hero. Quirkless people are weak and useless. Before she can say anything, Kaken smirks and says, yeah? Well, that quirkless chick could beat you to a pulp before you even knew she was there. He doesn't shout but he might as well have. The whole bus stares as Izu grins maniacally and starts wrapping her bike chain around her fist staring right at the grape boy. That's so manly. I could never do this without my quirk. Mad respect, bro. The redhead grins and his sincere words startle Izu back to reality. Thanks. Who are you? What's your quirk? I'm Kirishima Ijiru and my quirk is hardening. I can harden my body to solid rock. He flexes his biceps, hardening them and showing her. It's not super flashy like Bakubro's or Todoroki, but... His smile fades a bit. Oh, but I think your quirk is really cool. You're like the ultimate shield and the ultimate bludgeoning weapon in one body. Izu leans forward as Kirishima smiles in gratitude, but before he can thank her, she continues. Can you harden your whole body at the same time? Are you able to be cut while you're hardened? What about by a diamond? Does it add strength to your punches or is it like brass knuckles? What about Dash? Shut up, Deku! Kaken shouts across the bus. Izu finally registers that Kirishima is blushing and rubbing the back of his neck awkwardly. Oh, sorry. I just really like quirks, sorry. She leans back against her seat and chews her lip. Nah, it's cool. Yeah, I can harden my whole body at the same time. I'm not sure about diamonds, but most stuff can't cut me. I guess it is a little like brass knuckles, I've never really thought about most of that stuff before. He laughs awkwardly but his smile remains genuine, so Izu smiles back at him. Alright, we're here. Everyone get off. Aizawa calls before getting off the bus. Ida is the first of Izu's new classmates to follow Aizawa, but everyone else quickly joins him. Once they make it inside the USJ, they are greeted by the pro hero 13. Welcome students to the Unforeseen Simulation Joint, or the USJ. Aizawa approaches 13. Where's All Might? He was supposed to meet us here. Izu remembers Aizawa warned her that All Might was the heroics teacher this morning. She can't say she's not grateful he seems to be shirking his duties, but it is strange for him to miss out. She sees 13 raise 3 fingers as she whispers to Aizawa. Ah, he used up his time. Idiot. She pauses at the thought. Kaken must be rubbing off on her. She shakes her head and starts to focus in on 13 as she gives them the rundown of the rules for the USJ and the activity they'll be doing today. That's when she sees it. Sorry to interrupt, but Aizawa? Yes, problem child? Is that supposed to be happening? She points at the mist forming in the central plaza. Just as Aizawa turns around, villains begin swarming out of what she can now tell is a portal. A lot of villains. Those are villains. Those are villains. 13 protect the students. Izu, he looks right in her eyes, stay with the others. I need you to help keep them safe. He's smart, that guardian of hers. He knows she wouldn't listen unless he gave her a job to do. She begrudgingly complies with the order and turns to try and help them evacuate. Everyone, outside. Kaminari. Try and contact the school. 13 shouts out orders as they make their way toward the exit. A misty form stops them in their tracks when it appears before them. Hello there, we are the League of Villains. We are here to kill All Might. It looks like he is missing, but that is no matter. I still have a job to do. Just then, Kaken and Kirishima leap forward and attempt to attack the Mist Man. Idiots! Get out of the way! You two out of the way! Both 13 and Izu shout at the same time as 13 prepares an attack. The Mist Man is unaffected by the attack and more mist appears below the class. Scatter! Izu calls before she is falling. Falling toward the shipwreck zone. Good thing she can swim. She tries to aim her body so the impact doesn't immediately kill her. That would be awkward. She hits the water and immediately looks around for an attack. A shark-headed villain swims toward her, but before she can attack him, a tongue wraps around her waist and rips her out of the water. She lands on the deck of the boat along with Tsu and the Great Boy. Thanks, Tsu. Izu smiles at the frog girl. She looks over at the Great Boy and sees him attempting to grope the other girl. Izu whacks him in the face with her wet bike chain. None of that, diaper baby. Hey, that's a totally uncool nickname. Name is Mineta Minoru, local ladies' man. He tries to wink at her, but Izu just bursts into laughter. Yeah, and I'm the Queen of England. Before he can respond, the villains in the water start shouting at them. Come on and fight us, little heroes. Yeah. I'm getting hungry. Izu's face breaks out in her signature manic grin. Watch this. She turns around and leaps up on the edge of the boat. Hello there. Are you going to try and kill me? I dare you. Is that Kuruda sure? What is she doing here? Who? Izu smiles more. So some of you have heard of me? Great. This will be so much easier. Who wants to go first? She pulls her bat up and gives some test swings while still keeping her balance. My bat is hungry. She's insane. Izu can hear Great Boy say behind her. Whatever. Some of the villains immediately start swimming away, screeching about not being paid enough for this. Izu laughs. The few who remain seem wary but ready. She had never fought in water before, but there's a first time for everything, right? Are you guys gonna fight with me or stay back? She turns to look at Tsu and the diapered grape. The boy shakes his head furiously, but the girl gives her a questioning look. What are we gonna do against real villains? Fight for your lives. If you don't want to, I won't judge you. Him, yes, but you, no. Just be smart and play to your strengths. Izu uses her less terrifying smile to try and reassure Tsu. What are your strengths? You're quirkless. Grape disappointment tries to argue. Her manic grin returns. I'm also crazy. And she backflips into the water. She is immediately surrounded but she just pulls out her knives. Her bat remains on the boat, where hopefully it will be safe as she fights these guys in close quarters. She uses her legs to spin around in the water, arms extended to slash anything that gets close. A fish-headed man tries to grapple her from behind but she just jams the butt of her knife into his gills, then spins and slashes them. He retreats, opening the way for the shark boy. She smiles and jams her fist into his nose, breaking it. At this point she needs air. She surfaces for only a moment before a guy with water manipulation creates a giant water hand to resubmerge her. His plan backfires as she uses the momentum to stab another villain in the kidney and come back for the original guy. She can't swim fast with 2 knives, but she uses the guy's quirk against him, using the current he created to get closer to him. She grabs his leg and stabs. He shrieks and heads for air. She follows and headbutts him when they both come up. He's knocked out and she can feel a bruise forming. Who's next? She calls, but the rest of the villains have already followed the example of the first few and run away. She swims to shore and turns to the boat. You guys can come to shore now. Tsu grabs the diaper boy and leaps to shore. Once they reunite with Izu, they all three sneak toward the central plaza. We should go to the entrance and wait for help. Tsu looks to the others. Yeah, you two do that. I'm gonna help Aizawa. Tsu looks like she wants to argue, but then they reach the plaza and see Aizawa having his arm destroyed by a villain covered in hands. Then a giant monster appears out of nowhere and slams Aizawa's head into the ground. The mist guy returns to the hand villain's side and says something to him that causes him to scratch his neck excessively. Izu uses the distraction to try and get close to help Aizawa. Unfortunately, she's never really needed to be stealthy before, so it doesn't work. The hand villain immediately notices her. A portal appears and a hand outstretches toward her, the same hand that hurt Aizawa. She knows that it does some kind of disintegration, so she smiles as the hand grows closer. Nothing happens. She is close enough now to hear the hand villain speak. You really are so cool, erase her head. Nomu, kill him. That's it for her sanity. A scream can be heard all over the building as she rushes for the hand villain. Leave him alone. At the last minute she turns and jams two of her knives into the giant's exposed brain. It freaks and starts trying to claw out the weapons. She drops, checks Aizawa's pulse, then her steely eyes turn to the hand villain again. She slowly stands and pulls out her weapons, a knife in her right hand and a spike in her left. Her manic smile has never been bigger. You hurt something I care about. Now one of us is gonna die and I choose you. She runs at him, blade swinging. A portal appears but she dodges to the side and runs faster. Portals keep trying to block her but she won't let them. He tries to call the Nomu over, but the monstrosity is too busy pulling out parts of his brain trying to get the knives out to listen to its master. She finally gets in his face and knocks the stupid hand off. When she goes to stab him with the spike, he grabs her wrist. The pain is excruciating. She can see the skin turn to dust, then the muscle and tendons. It's absolutely horrifying and she can't stop the laughter as it bubbles up in her throat and is released through her lips. The hand villain glares at her but she can see the confusion in his eyes. He squeezes her wrist tighter and the area of disintegration grows. Her hand is turned to nothing but bone and even that is disappearing. The pain is unlike any death she's had so far. She doesn't even know why she's laughing, but she can't stop. It takes everything in her to use her good arm to slash at the villain. He manages to escape, but not without letting go of her arm. If it were even possible, it hurts even more now. She backs away from him, knife still at the ready, and looks down at her left arm. Her hand is gone, and the disintegration is rising still up her arm. It will continue until you have fully turned to dust. The villain shouts to her, laughing. Really? Guess I better get rid of it then. Thanks for the advice. And she does just that. With the knife in her right hand, she quickly and efficiently cuts through the remaining tissue and bone of her left arm, a few inches above her elbow. Your arm can't hurt if you don't have an arm, right? Wrong. So very wrong, but at least she can fight now. You know why they call me Kuruda Sure, Mr. Handsy Boy? It's because I'm willing to die for my goals. Are you? She's about to run at him again when she hears the doors burst open. Do not fear. I am not needed. Izu shouts over all might. You are late and I am handling this guy. I already took out that big guy over there. She points to the Nomu now dead on the floor of the USJ, brain completely destroyed. So go away. She doesn't turn to look at him, so she just has to assume he hears her. You aren't the final boss anymore, Kuruda Sure. You wanna bet? And then she's sitting at the other end of the room, All Might standing where she was not 2 seconds ago. Hey, that's my bad guy. Get your own. She goes to try and stand up again but she's suddenly very, very dizzy. Ah, right, blood loss. She looks down at her arm and sees it's bleeding very heavily. Maybe she should let All Might take over. Just as she thinks that, and her eyes start to droop, something wraps tightly around her bleeding arm and a warm body is next to her. It takes all her strength to look up, but she does and she is delighted to see Aizawa next to her. Good, solid, beaten and bruised Aizawa, with his face bleeding and one eye already swollen shut, is there. Don't leave me now, problem child. You've survived worse than this. Just stay awake. He keeps talking but she can't really hear him. She can see the desperation in his eyes though, so she focuses on that. She does her very best to stay awake, she really does. But she's getting so tired. She blinks once and she's at the front entrance, Kaken yelling about something. She blinks again and she's in an ambulance, Aizawa sitting next to her talking to a paramedic. She blinks again but only finds darkness. She wakes to the sound of beeping. That's new. Her eyes are still heavy and as her body wakes she realizes it hurts. So, she didn't die this time. Huh. Well, there's always next time. She tries to open her eyes but it feels like they're glued shut. She grimaces at the effort and feels a hand softly slide her hair. Careful, problem child. Take it easy and slow. She knows that voice. She uses all her strength to get her eyes open only to close them again at the harsh light. She slowly blinks and looks up into the face of the man who has been practically a parent to her for nearly a year now. He smiles down at her and doesn't even try to hide it. Eraser, where? Shoo, it's okay. You're in the hospital, and before you worry, I told them you're with me, so they won't ask any questions. He looks down at something that makes him frown. You really did a number on yourself, problem child. She looks where his gaze leads and sees her arm. Or, at least half of her arm. That's right, and since she didn't die. This is gonna make things a bit more difficult. She starts to laugh but it turns into a coughing fit. Aizawa helps her sip some water and it helps immensely. What's so funny? I'll have to start taking out villains single-handedly. She laughs some more. Aizawa just stares at her before rolling his eyes. Nedzu is already working on getting you the most high-tech prosthetic our support department can provide, so don't worry about it. Izu stares up at him dumbfounded. Why on earth would he do that? Aizawa raises an eyebrow. Did you really think he'd let anything get in the way of his favorite student becoming a hero? Izu chews her lip for a moment, looking away from Aizawa. I'm his favorite? But he barely knows me. Aizawa sits on the side of the bed, the extra weight on the bed bringing her some weird comfort. Doesn't matter. He sees something special in you and I'm inclined to agree with him. Besides, he's the Devil King, so no one's gonna argue with him. She laughs a little, still enthralled with the idea of someone outside of Aizawa and Kaken actually caring about her. Heck, she's still confused why both of them are sticking around. She looks back down at her left arm. There are a lot of bandages wrapped around it with wires and tubes coming out. She tries to lift it but it hurts. Hey, remember I said to take it slow. I know, She sighs. I don't like waiting. I want to get back out there. You'll only have to stay here a little longer. Recovery Girl is coming to heal you as much as she can and then it's just a day or two before you can go back to school. And when can I start fighting again? She still doesn't look at him, just stays staring at her arm. A week or two. Depending on how soon Nedzu can get your prosthetic and how quickly you can adapt to it, you might even be healed in time for the sports festival. They're still doing that? With us being attacked by villains. Aizawa sighs and rolls his eyes. Yes, we're still doing it. I thought it was illogical, but I was overruled. Izu laughs at Aizawa's obvious distaste, the grouchy old man. She looks back down at her arm, not really sure how to feel. She should have died. If she had died, everything would be fine, right? But, it was kinda nice to have people who would try so desperately to keep her alive. Plus, it's too late now. The arm is gone. Something tells her dying now won't bring it back. Do you, Izu chews her lip, not looking up from her arm. What is it? Aizawa's voice is patient, not even a hint of exasperation. Do you still think I can be a hero? She quickly glances up, looking for reassurance in his dark eyes. Aizawa doesn't hesitate, placing a hand on her head. I think you can do anything you set your mind to. He doesn't quite smile, but she still finds comfort in his voice. After Recovery Girl leaves that afternoon, Izu falls asleep feeling much better. Unfortunately, she's woken up just over an hour later to her JRK best friend yelling about her in the hallway. Where's Deku? I don't care. I am not being too loud. Shut up, extra. At the sound of explosions, Izu does her best to crawl out of bed, machines beeping behind her as she forces them to disconnect, and walks sluggishly to the door. Kasi sihaen. Hush. Stop scaring the nice nurses and just get in here already. She sees a bunch of nurses all standing back from Kaken as he is crouched in his mist gremlin-esque pose. He immediately straightens at her words and tsks, doing that weird, tough guy walk over to her room. Miss Midoriya, you really should be resting. Please. A nurse tries to reason with her. I will rest, I promise. Kaken is very relaxing. She says that last bit in the most monotone voice she can muster. Kaken can be heard laughing hysterically behind her as she closes the door with her good arm. She quickly turns around and tries to crawl back into bed. Note to self, crawling into bed is much harder when working with only 1.5 arms. She sits in her bed and looks down at her arm for the who knows how many times that day. There aren't wires and tubes coming out of the binding anymore since Recovery Girl kissed her forehead. Now it's just a simple gauze binding over what used to be her elbow, or at least right above where her elbow should be. She sighs and touches the stump for the first time. It's a weird sensation, knowing there should be something there that isn't anymore. She finally looks up to Kaken, a little shocked that he's been able to be quiet for this long. She finds he's also looking at her arm. He looks pained. Almost guilty. It's okay, Kaken. I'm okay. He doesn't look at her. No, you're not, Deku. You almost died. I know that doesn't scare you, and I know you'll just come back, but it's still terrifying for the people who... He sighs and shakes his head. He finally looks her in the eyes, his being red with unshed tears. It was one of the scariest moments of my life, Deku. And I have seen you die before. But watching you cut off your own arm with a laugh and not caring about the consequences? Deku, please. The tears he had been holding back begin to fall and his voice cracks as he continues. Please stop dying on me. I've already lost you twice. Please don't make me do it again. Izu isn't sure what to think. Kaken is openly crying? Sure, the door is shut so it's just them. And sure, they have become incredibly close over the last 9 months. But still, Kaken shouldn't cry. Especially not over worthless Deku. But, she's not worthless, is she? At least, not entirely. Right? She shakes her head. No, this is too much to think about right now. Deal with the crying Kaken first. Izu opens her arms on the bed and Kaken doesn't have to think long before he bolts over to her and collapses into the hug. They both start sobbing in each other's arms. Kaken because he almost lost his best friend and Izu because, actually, who knows why she's crying. Hey, Deku? Kaken whispers, through his tears a while later. Yeah, Kaken? I think you should tell Aizawa what you told me that day. About how you found your quirk. I'll think about it. Ow, is it supposed to be uncomfortable? Both Aizawa and Kaken show up the next day for Izu's prosthetic fitting. Don't be a wuss, Deku. Kaken has an interesting approach to encouragement. Izu just sticks her tongue out at him. It might be a bit snug at first, but if it genuinely hurts, that might mean there is a problem with the fit, so make sure you watch out for that. Dr. Moriaka is a kind lady who has the patience of a saint while Izu mmmms and groans throughout the fitting. She actually reminds Izu of her mom a little, which really does not help her mental state in all of this. Will it always feel so awkward? Izu asks as she swings it around a bit. Dr. Moriaka laughs at her antics. No, you'll get used to it. Plus, this is just a basic model so you can get used to the feel and practice a bit with it. I believe your guardian mentioned something about a more high-tech prosthetic in your future. She looks to Aizawa for confirmation and he nods from the corner where he's been observing everything. So that one, since it's being custom-made for you, will most likely feel more comfortable. She smiles at Izu and Izu has to take a deep breath and look away so as not to break down. She really wishes her mom was here. But she's not. And she never will be. Wow, bummer much, Izu? She tries to shake the memories from her head and focus on maneuvering with the new plastic arm. It's a weird weight to get used to. She tries waving at Kaken with it and he rolls his eyes, turning away to hide his laugh. She grins. Success. Well, you get some practice and I'll come check on you in a little while, alright? Dr. Moriaka smiles and then exits the room, leaving Aizawa, Kaken, and Izu alone. This is so weird. Kaken, come shake my hand. Izu stretches her prosthetic out in his direction, but it drops a little, her arm not yet used to the extra weight. Fat chance, Deku. I ain't gonna be the reason that thing falls off. It isn't gonna fall off. Just come shake my hand. I wanna see how it feels. Kaken rolls his eyes but finally complies. She finds it a strange sensation, seeing him touch her hand but not being able to feel it. Cool, she whispers. They continue like that for a while, Izu coming up with things to test her prosthetic with and Kaken begrudgingly humoring her. The whole time Aizawa never leaves the corner, just observes them from a safe distance. It's the last night of her stay in the hospital and Izu is finally gonna tell Aizawa. Maybe. Kaken trusts the man a lot, and she does too. She still isn't 100% sure she is ready to tell him her secret, but not because she doesn't trust him. She trusts him more than almost anyone else. No, she's hesitant to tell him because she fears how he'll react. When she had told Kaken this, he told her she was being stupid and to just do it. So, here she is. Doing it. Yes. Maybe. Ugh, why is this so hard? Aizawa? It's 3 a.m. and Aizawa is sleeping in her room like he has done every night that she's been here. He doesn't open his eyes. What is it, problem child? She chews her lip in the darkness. She can do this. It's Aizawa. Aizawa who has been looking out for her for the last 9 or so months. Aizawa who helped leverage for her to be in the hero course. Aizawa who saved her life. Aizawa who supports her even now. She can do this and he will not be disappointed in her. Yeah, that's her fear. That he'll think she's weak and be disappointed in her. That thought is more terrifying than losing her arm again. It's more terrifying than the thought of losing all her limbs to Shigaraki. But she can trust him. Take a deep breath, Izu. Can I talk to you for a minute? Can I talk to you for a minute? That makes his eyes pop open. Shota can hear the distress in his child's voice and he recognizes that worry. He doesn't even need to see in the dim light to know she's been chewing her lip again. He doesn't even have to think about it before he gets up and makes his way over to her, turning on a small light so she can see him and sitting on the bed beside her. Now that the light is shining, he can see that he was right about her chewing her lip. He can also see the way she won't meet his eyes and how she's wringing the blankets in her hands. He puts his hand on her head and strokes her hair to try and ground her. What is it, problem child? She continues not to look at him, but the wringing stops. He'll take the little victory. He keeps stroking her hair, giving her the space she needs to collect her thoughts. I need to tell you something, but... She takes a deep breath, chewing her lip more as she thinks. I don't want you to be mad at me. Well, that's cryptic. Shota's never been good with people. They lie and hide things and are all around completely illogical. But for his vigilante? For his vigilante he will gladly be patient and traverse the labyrinth that is social interaction. He will gladly talk through whatever it is that is bothering her and be her safe harbor in the turbulent sea of her own mind. Izu, it's okay. Whatever you have to tell me, everything will be okay. There's nothing we can't handle together. He tries to be reassuring, but he's still new to this whole guardian thing. Promise? She slowly looks up and sticks out her right pinky finger. He laughs softly and interlocks pinkies with her. Promise. Now, what do you have going on in that big head of yours? She laughs a little before looking down sadly. Remember how I was supposed to be dead? He already doesn't like where this is going. Yes. Well, obviously that attempt didn't work, but... She takes a deep, steadying breath. But that wasn't the only time I tried. I actually tried 6 more times to, not exist anymore. She avoids looking at him, looking literally everywhere else but his eyes. Obviously it didn't work. And believe me, I tried. But, yeah, nothing worked. That's when I became a vigilante. I figured, if I can't, die then maybe I could. I don't know, maybe I wasn't completely useless if I could do some good? So, yeah. She slowly and hesitantly brought her eyes to look at Shota. Are you mad? He looks at her for a moment, just taking it all in. No, I'm not mad at you. I won't lie, I am very concerned. How many times have you died? Izu blows the hair out of her face and sighs. I don't really know. I lost count after like 15? Kaken says I'm not allowed to anymore though. Apparently, even if I don't, stay dead, it's still very scary for the people that care about me, which is just, wow. Having people care if I'm dead? My mom cared of course, but she's gone. So, this is all very new. Now that right there breaks Shota's heart. He grabs Izu and pulls her into a hug. Of course I care if you die, problem child. You're my vigilante and I'm not letting anything take you away. Do you hear me? Not even that big, mean brain of yours is taking you away. I don't care if you say it isn't permanent. No more dying. Izu breaks down in his arms and he holds her, rocking a little back and forth. He strokes her hair and lets her cry. Izu is released the next day and, after stopping by Dadzawa's house, she's ready to return to UA for what she hopes is her first normal day of school. The uniform is a far cry from what she has been wearing, and she had to ask Dadzawa to help her with the tie, so she's already feeling a little uncomfortable as she steps up to the door to Class 1A. She'd insisted she could walk in by herself, but now she's regretting telling Kaken and Dadzawa to go without her. Deep breath. Just open the door. You can do this. She fiddles with her prosthetic for a moment before finally taking a step and pushing the door open. She finds chaos. But the chaos is silenced by a loud shout of, "There you are, Deku." And suddenly she's being swarmed. Are you okay? I totally thought you were dead when you weren't in class yesterday. That was so manly, what you did at the USJ. Manly? That was psychotic. No, it wasn't. You were amazing, Midoriya. The voices begin to overlap and it's all she can do not to turn and book it out of there. She gives a hesitant smile and nods at all the faces surrounding her. Everyone to your seats. It is illogical to block the doorway, keeping Midoriya from entering the room. Dadzawa calls from the floor where he had been sleeping. Problem child, you're late. Take a seat behind Bakugo. Once everyone has moved to their seats, Izu scurries over to her seat behind Kaken and puts her head down. Dadzawa stands up at the front and begins announcements. As I said yesterday, the sports festival will be in 2 weeks. I want to stress how important this will be for you to catch the attention of heroes for your upcoming internships. Here at UA, we try and give you as much real-life experience as we can with as much of a safety net as possible. The sports festival will be your opportunity to impress some pros and hopefully get offers for the internships you will be doing following the festival. After announcements were done, it was time for lessons. Today they have math with ectoplasm, English with present mic, and art history with midnight. Then it's finally time for lunch. Izu grabs her tray from Lunch Rush and scans the cafeteria. The place is crowded and she starts wishing she could disappear to Nedzu's office. Then she hears her name being shouted and turns to find several of her classmates smiling and waving her over to the handful of tables they'd sequestered. She smiles and begins walking over, almost bumping into a student with weightless purple hair who turns to glare at her. She sits down between Kaken and Tsu, the two people she so far feels the most comfortable near. Well, if it isn't Class 1A. A strange blonde boy comes to stand behind Izu. Feeling all superior because you've had a run-in with villains? Think you're above everyone else here? Well, I heard you guys had some homeless tramp join your class. Maybe that'll bring you down to size. Everyone else at the table just groans or looks away, but Izu isn't so polite. She shoves her chair back, hitting the boy in the legs and hips, and turns to stand in front of him. And who the heck are you, Blondie? He shakes off his shock and opens his mouth to respond. I'm Monoma Nito of Class 1B. Well, hello there, idiot of Class 1B. Izu gives him her manic smile and all of Class 1A quiets to see what will happen. Now, I may just be some homeless tramp, she uses finger quotes with her right hand, but at least I know better than to trivialize a severely traumatic event. She holds up her prosthetic and waves it in his face, hers now twisted into a hellish glare. You think having my arm cut off makes me feel superior to you? You think watching our teacher nearly die makes us feel good? What kind of arrogant BSTRD goes around bringing up a person's trauma to verbally abuse them? Let alone insinuate that they are using it for attention. That crap was terrifying. I sure hope you don't plan to be a hero with that kind of attitude. She then swivels around, sits back in her chair, and goes back to eating her delicious yakisoba. The lunch tables around them are silent and Monoma's jaw has gone slack, his face now red in embarrassment. He tries to stutter a response, but soon turns around and just walks away. Bro, that was so manly. The way you just took him down like that. Kirishima's eyes glow with admiration. Izu looks up at him and shrugs. It wasn't anything special. I can't stand people who treat others like that. People who make assumptions about other people based on one tiny speck of information without even talking to the person? They're just ignorant bullies. She goes back to eating and, after a moment, so does everyone else. All Might looks like he's seen a ghost. He's not really far off though. It's kind of funny actually. All throughout heroics he had been glancing at Izu and looking so very confused. She assumes he's finally placed where he knows her from and he probably remembers seeing reports of her death. Now he is getting paler by the second and Izu is finding it hard to focus on her spar. She really wants to laugh, but knows she needs to pay attention to her opponent. That doesn't stop her from bursting into laughter as soon as her and Jairu are done. It takes her a moment to calm down, so when she finally has, she notices everyone has already started heading off to change. That's not good. She'd been the first to change before coming out to spar and she was hoping to do it again so no one would see her scars. She's gotten quite a few of them in the past year and some of them are sure to make any hero student worth anything worry for her. Maybe she can hide in one of the bathroom stalls? She manages to grab her clothes and hide away in the last stall, changing quickly. As she changes she takes a moment to look at her skin. She'd never been what you'd think of as pretty, more plain than anything, but she was definitely not gonna win any beauty contests now. Her freckled skin is riddled with marks ranging in shapes from starbursts to circles to simple lines. She looks over at her left arm. She had taken her prosthetic off for training, not wanting to break the fragile base model that wasn't meant to take a beating, and she can see the modeled skin right above where her elbow should be. The way the skin is pulled over and reattached at the bottom. She'll never truly be whole again. But she hasn't really been whole since that first jump. She shakes her head and finishes changing. She heads back to her locker and grabs her prosthetic, pulling the sock on and then attaching the mechanism. Once that's done, she heads to the door, her new classmates waiting for her as they all exit together. All Might is waiting outside. Young Midoriya. May I speak with you, please? In private. Izu looks up at him. No. She starts to try and walk away, her classmates already slowly moving in the direction of the front doors. Young Midoriya, please. It will just take a moment. He pleads with her. It's odd to see such a large man look so much like a struck child, his eyes going big and round as he pleads for her attention. Fine. I'll talk with you dash. Thank you, young Midoriya. But, we are not talking in private. There are so many red flags with that. We can talk in Nedzu's office. And she turns and begins strutting toward the rat principal's office leaving no room for argument. Of course, that doesn't stop him from trying. Young Midoriya, what I wish to talk about is truly a private matter. I don't believe we should involve anyone else. Yes, well, I'm still a minor, so unless you are my legal guardian, which you aren't, I'm not gonna just be alone with you because you asked. That's super creepy. All Might pauses for a moment then begins stammering. IW would never, the very idea, that's not. I dash. Look, we're almost there. Just, contain yourself. Nezu probably already knows everything anyways. They reach the office and Izu doesn't even knock, just walks right in. Miss Midoriya, right on time. All Might looked at the rat bear in confusion. You were expecting her? Well, I expected something would come up today that might warrant a visit from my dear student, and then I saw you confront her on the security footage and I took an educated guess on where she would go. I'm delighted to see that I was right. Izu sits down in one of the chairs in front of Nezu's desk. She looks over and up at All Might, raising an eyebrow. You gonna just stand there or are you gonna deflate and actually relax? It's just... All Might slowly deflates to his skeleton-like form, looking like a scolded puppy. He looks to Nezu. I just wanted to have a private conversation with young Midoriya about something. She insisted we come here. I see. Well, she made a wise decision. How is that? She feels uncomfortable with you for some reason and instead of avoiding you altogether, she found a trusted adult to help her. Izu looked to All Might, a grin stretching across her face. So, what's up, Skeletor? All Might fumbles at the nickname but finally goes over and sits in the other chair. I guess I would like to start with the fact that I believed you to be dead. And whose fault was that? Izu can't hide the irritation in her voice, her grin quickly fading. Especially when she finds a look of utter confusion on the number one hero's face. Whose fault is it that I'm supposed to be dead? Are you trying to say? Could it possibly be the buffoon who left a 14-year-old alone on a roof after crushing her dreams? Do you think it could be that person, All Might? I apologize for leaving you there, but I had other things that I... Oh, and those things were more important than the life of a child you had just dropped off on a freaking roof? How did you expect me to get down? Did that thought even cross your mind? What about when you saw I had jumped? Did you ever feel guilty? All Might? I didn't know you jumped. The obituary just said you had died by suicide. He hung his head. A small piece of Izu found pleasure in his guilt. Good. He should feel bad. Well, lucky for you, I lived. Izu crosses her arms and slouched in her chair. Yes, about that, how did you survive? All Might looks up curiously. Like I'm gonna tell you. All you need to know is that I did and that I'm going to be a hero despite you having zero belief in me. Young Midoriya. No, All Might. Tears spring up in Izu's eyes. You were my favorite hero. My idol. I looked up to you. And you destroyed the last piece of hope I had without a second thought. You didn't even take the time to know me or consider the possible consequences. You just crushed my dreams and left. She wipes her tears. I may have no choice in having you as a teacher, and I promise to be civil in front of others, but I want nothing to do with you. I will not speak to you again outside of class unless it is an emergency. So please, for once, respect me enough to leave me alone. All Might stands up, his own tears welling in his eyes. I am truly sorry for the pain that I caused. I'll try to leave you alone now. He bows to her, then walks out of the room, leaving Izu and Nezu alone. Well, that must have been cathartic. Nezu claps his paws together. Izu chuckles through the lump in her throat. Yeah, it was, a little. Since you're here, how about we talk about your new arm? Yes, please. After leaving Nezu's office, Izu heads to her appointment with Hound Dog. She was supposed to be there right after school, but All Might had to be stupid. She asked Nezu how to get there and now she walks up to the door and quietly knocks. Come in. A gruff voice calls from inside. Izu heads in cautiously, finding the pro-hero Hound Dog waiting for her. Please, take a seat, Miss Midoriya. Oh, please lose the Mississippi. You sound like All Might and I just dealt with that whole thing. Just call me Midoriya, or Deku, or Izu, whatever you want. She shrugs and plops herself down on the offered couch. Noted. So, I understand that you are here because Aizawa felt it was necessary after what you did at the USJ. Oh, he wanted me to get therapized long before the USJ. My not so bordering on suicidal tendencies are at least part of the reason. Not to mention that I'm just crazy. She laughs. Hound Dog frowns. He writes something down, but continues speaking only a moment later. Let's unpack that dash. That's really not necessary. He raises one eyebrow and slightly glares. It really is though, isn't it? You can't just say you have suicidal tendencies and call yourself crazy to a therapist and expect me to not talk about it. Right? Izu avoids his eyes. She really needs to learn how to have a filter. Let's start with not calling ourselves crazy. That is a definite no. Yeah, figures. Can't help if it's true though. She shrugs. He gives her an incredulous look before continuing. When you say suicidal tendencies, what exactly do you mean? Should she tell him? Everything I tell you is confidential, right? Like, if I tell you a secret, you can't tell anyone else? Unless it involves you hurting yourself in the near future, you hurting someone else, or someone hurting you, no, I can't tell anyone else. Your secrets are safe with me. He gives her a small grin. She gives him a rare soft smile in return and then chews her lip. She can trust him with this, right? Deep breath. So, I'm not really quirkless. She tells him everything. From her first attempt to her vigilante days to slicing off her own arm without a second thought. Please don't tell anyone about my quirk. I'm not sure I want everyone to know about it. She shrinks in on herself, waiting for his inevitable betrayal of her trust. Just because Dadzawa and Nedzu turned out to be trustworthy doesn't mean every adult will. First off, I will not tell anyone about this who does not absolutely need to know. I assume you've informed your guardian. She nods, too shocked by his calm demeanor to speak. Good, then that's everyone who needs to know. Now, the second order of business is to explore these deaths. Every quirk has a drawback of some kind, and the more powerful, the greater the drawback in my experience. Reversing death is a pretty powerful quirk. Have you noticed any drawbacks? Have I mentioned I'm crazy? She tries to chuckle, but it isn't convincing even to her own ears. And you believe that's your drawback? Can you tell me more? Well, it's just. I've noticed I haven't really been the same since I started dying. I mean, I laughed when Hansi was destroying my arm. I no longer see an end to anything. I want to die. That doesn't sound very healthy. And you don't mean just for the healing aspect of your quirk? Sometimes I think the healing aspect is the drawback. Every time I die, I hope I don't wake up again. I just want that darkness to last forever. But it never does. Izu can feel tears begin to slide down her face. Why won't it ever last? Why can't I just die? Existing hurts all the time and I just can't handle it. But I finally have Kaken back, and I have Dadzawa, so why do I still want so badly for it all to end? Why does it still hurt so much? Have you noticed this urge to die growing since you started using your quirk? What do you mean? Well, from what Aizawa told me and the recording from the USJ, not to mention how you're feeling right now, it sounds like your quirk makes your mental health worse. The more you use it, the more it wants to be used, and the more you crave death. So, my quirk gave me depression? No, I believe you already were depressed. I think your depression feeds off of your quirk. The more you use it, the more depressed you feel. What do I even do with that? That's something we can work on together.
Okay, sadly the chapter is over. And if you enjoyed the video, just leave a like and subscribe with post notification, so when the next chapter is ready, you will be notified. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye.